Unlike a internal combustion engine, a steam engine has to be oiled up every time you run it. This is the process of doing that. The best way of doing this is to work round the engine in a circle, thus avoiding missing any oiling points. These things always have oiling points hidden in the most inaccessible places, easily missed. These are wick lubricators. They have a piece of string in them which wicks the oil down through a pipe. The wicks have to be removed at the end of every run to stop them from draining themselves unnecessarily. These are the valve rod guides. These ensure the valve rod moves in a perfectly straight line. Right, that's as much as we can do without barring the engine round, so we'll bar it over now. This is the process of barring an engine round. As the name suggests, you are pushing the engine round with a bar. As the steam engine is non-self-starting, you have to bar it round to the starting position. This is by no means an easy job. These flywheels weigh about 4 tons, and the connecting rod weighs another ½ ton. All on a 3-foot bar. No need for a gym when you've got steam engines. What I'm doing here is I'm looking at the crankshaft. This will tell me when the engine reaches the starting position. So we've just come over bottom dead centre. We're now approaching mid-stroke. The point I'm looking for is about 5 degrees past mid-stroke. This has now reached starting position. So the next job now is to oil the big end and the connecting rod. First, we must remove the bar. The big end has a greaser on it. It used to have an oil lubricator here, but things have moved on since 1884. We now have grease, which is reliable. Just 2 turns of that is all that requires. Same here on this link here. You've got a greaser there and there, and that's all that's to that. Still put a run of oil across where the oil lubricator used to be, just to keep the bearing lubricated. So we've now completed the lubrication of the valve gear and the big end. We now need to work on the crossheads and governor. This is the crosshead. Much like the valve rod guides, this keeps the piston perfectly aligned with the bore. This has a different type of lubricator. This is a drip feed lubricator. So we fill this and it slowly feeds the oil with a variable setting with the cam on the top. So all we need to do is open them to the desired level. Same again on the big end, little end, little end. And that's all we need to do there. That will now look after itself. Onto the governor. This is the governor. This regulates the engine speed. This has many moving parts, which all require oiling. The governor is a fairly simple device to regulate the engine speed, driven off the crankshaft. These weights under centrifugal force will move outwards, lifting this collar here, which through a linkage regulates steam supply, regulating engine speed. Now we've oiled the external parts of the engine, we need to ensure the internal parts have an equally as good oil supply. Here we have 2 methods of that. We have the mechanical lubricator, which is driven off the valve rod, and we have a displacement lubricator, which relies on displacement of oil and water. Now before every run, just give that a bit of oil. Displacement lubricators are fairly basic. Relying on the principle of oil floats on water, using the water in the steam, it pushes oil into the cylinder. And the last bit, the most important bit, the main bearing. Requires a bit of oil on either side to keep the brass lubricated. Now we're ready to start the engine. As she's in the starting position, she'll go on her own. Well, that's the engine running.
Now, show you what.
And that is the job of an engineman. The oiling and looking after the engine was their job, but not just their job, that was their passion. Each engineman got very connected to their engines and would spend hours doing unnecessary work to make them look just as good as they worked. So at the end of the day, we now got to bring the engine to a stop and do the reverse of what we've just done. First job is shut off steam. That's where we hope the engine stops in the right place. They invariably never do. You can but hope here. Now, near enough, that'll do. Now we've got to turn off all the lubricators. We don't want them running out of oil. One, it makes a mess, and two, oil's too expensive. Likewise with the wick lubricators, you need to remove the wick to prevent them running out of oil.